I once had a perfect family, until I discovered the secrets my beloved wife Taylor was hiding behind my back. Her late nights and secretive phone calls filled my heart with doubts. Until one day, I uncovered her illicit affair with her colleague Ethan, and their even bigger scheme of meticulously planned financial fraud. My trust was utterly betrayed, and my life was completely upended. But this is not the end, but the beginning of my quest for truth and justice. Welcome to Watch. Join me in unveiling the preludes of this family betrayal and revenge. Let's formally listen to today's story of infidelity. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for your support. The aroma of freshly baked cinnamon rolls permeated Sarah's cafe, mingling with the rich scent of coffee. Alex Dunk inhaled deeply, savoring the familiar smells. As he sat in a warm leather booth with his family, Sarah, his sister, bustled around holding a pot of steaming coffee. "Everyone knows what to expect?" Sarah inquired, her eyes twinkling. Alex nodded and reached for Taylor's hand across the table. His wife's fingers were cool to the touch and her wedding ring glinted in the soft morning light. "Sister, you know us too well." Emily, the 12-year-old, spoke up. "Aunt Sarah, can I have some extra whipped cream on my hot chocolate?" "I agree." Max, 8 years old, chimed in. Sarah laughed, ruffling Max's hair. "You get it, kids, but do not tell your dentist." As Sarah returned to the kitchen, Alex turned to Taylor. "How is working on that new development?" "Kept you busy." Taylor's smile appeared a bit forced. "Well, you understand how it is. There's always another house to show, another deal to close." She glanced at her watch. "Speaking of which, I should probably leave soon." Alex furrowed his brow as he said, "I have a client meeting at 10 on a Sunday. I assumed we were going to take the kids to the park after breakfast." "I know, and I apologize." Taylor's tongue was clipped. "But this could be a huge sale. Do you understand?" Right before Alex could respond, Emily said, "Mom, you promised to help me pick out an outfit for picture day tomorrow." Taylor's expression softened as she focused on her door. "Oh, sweetheart, I forgot. Tell me what. Why don't we go shopping this afternoon? Let's make it a girls' day out." Max's face fell. "But what about the parks?" Alex forced a smile, hoping to salvage the situation. "Hello, buddy. Instead, how about we have a good day? We can shoot hoops in the driveway. Perhaps fire up the grill for lunch. What say you?" Max's eyes lit up. "Can we invite Uncle Daniel?" "You bet." Alex agreed and toasted his son Kay hair. He looked at Taylor. There was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. "I suppose we'll see you this evening." Taylor nodded but didn't quite meet his gaze. "I will try not to be too late." Sarah returned with a tray full of steaming mugs and plates, piled high with fluffy pancakes and crispy bacon, and she set the food down. She cast a questioning look at her brother. Alex shook his head slightly, silently, indicating that everything was fine. As the family ate their breakfast, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Emily discussed her upcoming science fair project, while Max told them about his latest Little League game. Alex found himself relaxing, putting his previous concerns aside and focusing on the present moment with his family. Taylor gathered her belongings and prepared to leave after breakfast. She kissed the kids goodbye and pecked Alex on the cheek. "I'll call you later, all right?" Alex nodded as she hurriedly left the cafe. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, but he dismissed the thought they lived a good life with a happy family. He was probably just overly paranoid. Sarah slid into the booth next to him as the children cleared their plates. "Is everything okay, little brother?" she asked quietly. Alex put on a smile. "Of course. Why shouldn't it be?" Sarah raised her eyebrow. "Alex, you're not fooling me. I have known you your entire life. Is something bothering you?" He slid him a hand through his hair. It's probably nothing. Taylor has been working a lot lately. I'm sure things will calm down soon. Sarah squeezed his shoulder. Well, you know, I'm always available if you need to talk or if you need someone to talk. Sense into your thick skull. Alex chuckled, thankful for his sister's support. Thank you, Sarah. I will keep that in mind. As they left the cafe, Alex couldn't shake the nagging feeling in the pit of his stomach, but he ignored it. Focusing on the day ahead with his children. They led a good life, he reminded himself. Big picture. Perfect family. What could go wrong? 2 weeks later, Alex was elbow deep in the engine of a beaten-up Ford. The familiar smell of motor oil and grease filled the air of his workshop. While the radio crackled in the background playing an old country song, he hummed along absently. The sound of heels clicking against concrete drew his attention. He glanced up to see Sarah Wilson, Taylor's best friend and colleague, approaching with a hesitant smile. Hey there, Alex, Sarah called out. Got a minute? Alex wiped his hands with a rag. Curiosity piqued. Sure thing. Sarah, what brings you here? Sarah fidgeted with her purse strap. I hope to catch Taylor. We were supposed to meet for coffee, but she isn't answering the phone. I thought she might be here with you. Alex frowned. She informed me that she had a late showing today. She said she would not be home until after dinner. Oh, Sarah furrowed her brow. That is odd. She specifically requested that I meet her at Sarah's cafe at 400. Said she needed to discuss something important that had not formed in Alex's stomach. Perhaps there was a mistake with the dates or a last-minute client. Sarah nodded but didn't seem convinced. You must be so. If you see her, please tell her. I stopped by. Of course. Alex agreed and forced a smile. As Sarah turned to leave, he called out hello. Sarah, has Taylor seemed different to you recently? Sarah paused and bit her lip. How are they different? Alex shrugged, attempting to keep his tone casual. I do not know. Distracted. Perhaps we haven't spent much time together recently, and I was wondering if there was anything going on at work. Sarah's expression was unreadable. Alex, I'm sure it's just job-related stress. You are aware of how things work in real estate. There is always another deal, another client. Alex nodded, not fully satisfied with the response. Yeah, you're probably correct. Thank you, Sarah. As Sarah left, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He took out his phone and debated whether to call Taylor. His thumb hovered over her name and his contacts before he decided against it. He was probably just overly paranoid. Alex and his friend Daniel went to Allmel's, a local bar, the following evening. Alex had just finished a pickup basketball game and was relaxing with a beer. So how are things between you and Taylor? Daniel asked, taking a sip from his own drink. Alex shrugged. Fine. I suppose she's been working a lot recently. Daniel raised his eyebrow. You can guess that does not sound like Alex. I know what is really going on. Alex sighed and fiddled with his wedding ring. I do not know, man. Something feels off. Taylor is always busy and distracted. We don't talk much anymore, and when we do, it feels like she's a million miles away. Have you tried speaking with her about it? Alex shakes his head every time I bring it up. She claims it's just work, stress, but I can't shake the feeling that there is more to it. Daniel leaned in. He lowered his voice. You do not think she is? You know what, cheating? Alex scoffed, but his voice sounded uncertain. No way. Taylor wouldn't do that. We have been together since high school. People change? Alex, Daniel spoke gently. I'm not saying she is, but perhaps you should trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Before Alex could respond, his phone exploded. Taylor sent a text. Working late again. Do not wait. Alex stared at the message with a sinking feeling in his stomach. He looked up and saw Daniel watching him with concern. "Is everything okay?" Daniel asked. Alex forced a smile. "Yeah, Taylor, just let me know she's working late again." Daniel's expression softened. Look, man, I hope I'm wrong, but you might want to do some research for your own peace of mind. If nothing else." Alex nodded as his mind raced. "Yeah, maybe you're right." As they left the bar, Alex couldn't shake the nagging doubt that had taken root in his mind. He loved Taylor, trusted her completely, but what if Daniel was right? What if people really did change? He decided to swing by Taylor's office on his way home just to check. As he pulled into the parking lot, he noticed her car was gone. The knot in his stomach tightened. Alex pulled out his phone, hesitating for a moment before dialing Taylor's number. It rang several times before going to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," he said after the beep. "Just wanted to check in. Give me a call when you can." As he hung up, Alex caught sight of a familiar figure across the street. It was Ethan Gray, a local mortgage broker. He'd met at a few of Taylor's work events. Ethan was climbing into his flashy sports car, a smile on his face. Alex watched as Ethan drove off, an uneasy feeling settling over him. He couldn't put his finger on why, but something about seeing Ethan there at this hour set off all alarm bells in his head. As he drove home, Alex's mind raced with possibilities. He tried to push away the doubts, to focus on the trust and love he and Taylor had built over the years, but the seed of doubt had been planted. And try as he might, Alex couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that his perfect life might not be so perfect after all. A week later, Alex found himself sitting across from Hank Morrison, a private investigator recommended by a friend. The detective's office was small and cluttered, with filing cabinets lining the walls and a worn leather chair creaking under Hank's weight. "So, Mr. Conklin," Hank began his voice. "Gruff, tell me why you're here." Alex shifted uncomfortably. "I think my wife might be involved with someone else." Hank nodded, his expression neutral. "What makes you suspect that?" Alex took a deep breath. "She's been working late a lot, always on her phone. We barely talk anymore, and last week I saw her colleague's car parked near a hotel when she was supposed to be at a showing." "Have you confronted her about it?" Alex shakes his head. "I wanted to be sure first. I don't want to accuse her of anything if I'm wrong." Hank leaned back in his chair. "All right, here's what I can do. I'll tell her for a week, gather some evidence. Photos, recordings. This happened when I was in the first or second year of junior high school. I think I was about 13 years old. I grew up in the countryside. But I got to warn you, Mr. Conklin, sometimes the truth ain't pretty." Alex nodded. His jaw was set. "Mr. Morrison, I need to know whatever it is." Alex's phone broke as he was leaving the office. Taylor sent a text. "Hello, honey. I got a late meeting. Don't stay out for dinner." Alex's grip tightened on the phone. He typed back quickly, Okay, love you," before pocketing the device. His heart is heavy. Alex spent the next few days in a blur of anxiety and suspicion. He found himself analyzing every word and gesture from Taylor, searching for clues. She appeared oblivious to his inner turmoil, going about her daily routine. On Friday evening, Alex's phone rang. It was Hank. "Mr. Conklin, I think you should visit my office. I have something you should see." Alex's heart was racing as he drove to Hank's office. When he arrived, the detective was ready for him. He had a grim expression on his face. "I apologize, Mr. Thompson," Hank said, sliding a manila envelope across the desk, "but you were correct to be suspicious." With shaky hands, Alex opened the envelope. Inside were photos of Taylor and Ethan Gray. In private moments. Outside in the till, there were timestamps, locations and all of the damning evidence presented in stark black and white. Alex felt like he had been punched in the stomach. How long he successfully choked out Hank's side. Based on what I've learned in at least a few months. Possibly longer. Alex nodded numbly as his world collapsed around him. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I need to leave. As he drove home, Alex's thoughts raced. Taylor, how could you do this to him? To their family? He thought about their children and the life they created together. It all felt like a cruel joke. Now when he pulled into the driveway, he noticed Taylor's car already there. Take a deep breath. He prepared himself for the confrontation ahead. He found her humming as she made dinner. The sight of her, so casual and ordinary, made his blood boil. Hello, honey. Taylor replied, smiling as she turned to greet him. Her smile faded when she saw his expression. Alex, what is wrong? Alex slammed the envelope onto the counter. Why aren't you telling me? Taylor's face paled as she opened the envelope and her hands shook as she looked through the photo font. Alex, I can explain. What exactly are you explaining? Alex's voice sounded low. Dangerous. Please explain how you have been lying to me for months. You've been sneaking around with Ethan Gray behind my back. Taylor's eyes filled with tears. I apologize. Alex, I never intended for this to happen. Never intended for this to happen. Alex yelled, his composure finally failing. Never intended to cheat on me. Never intended to destroy our family. Taylor cried. It is not like that. You do not understand. I felt trapped and suffocated, Ethan. He made me feel alive again. Alex laughed bitterly. And I made you feel what I did. Is our life together so bad that you had to look for excitement elsewhere? Taylor's expression hardened. Do you want the truth? Fine. Yes, I have been seeing Ethan, and you know what? I do not regret it. He understands me in a way that you never did. Alex felt as though he had been slapped. What about our children? Taylor, did you think about them? While you were busy feeling alive with Ethan. Taylor hissed, don't you dare bring the children into this. They had nothing to do with it. They are entirely responsible for this. Alex roared. Taylor, you didn't just betray me. You betrayed the entire family. Taylor's eyes flashed with rage. Do you want to know why I did it? Because I am sick of this life. Alex, I'm sick of repeating the same routine every day. I'm sick of being just a wife and mother. Is this what you want to hear? Alex stared at her as if he were looking at a stranger. So what happens now? Do you want a divorce? Taylor raised her chin defiantly. Perhaps I do. Maybe it's time we both admit that this isn't working anymore. Alex experienced a surge of determination. Fine. You want out. You've got it. But don't think for 1 second that I'll let you take my children away from me. We'll see about it. Taylor sneered. I'm their mother. The courts consistently side with the mother. We will see. Alex responded, his voice cold. But I promise you this. Taylor, I will fight for my children with everything I have, and I'm going to make sure everyone understands who you truly are. Alex felt a mix of emotions churning inside him as he stormed out of the kitchen, leaving Taylor to stare after him. Anger, betrayal, heartbreak, but underneath it all, a steely resolve was developing. He wouldn't let Taylor ruin his life. Alex sat in his Toyota truck, parked outside a modest suburban home. As he stared at the front door, his hands tightened around the steering wheel. He's gathering his courage. Finally, he took a deep breath and stepped outside. Approaching the house, the door swings open. A woman with kind eyes and a tentative smile greeted him. Mr. Conker, she inquired, her voice soft. Alex nodded. Thank you, Mrs. Gray, for agreeing to meet with me. Laura Gray ushered him in. Please call me Laura. May I get you something to drink? No thanks, Alex replied, following her into the living room. I appreciate you taking the time to visit me, especially considering the circumstances. Laura's smile wavered. You mentioned on the phone that you had information about my husband, Ethan. Alex sat down, his face grim. I do, and I'm sorry, but the news is not good. He took out the envelope of photos and handed it to Laura. Her hands shook slightly when she opened it. What's this? She inquired, fired her tone barely above a whisper, evidence that our spouses were having an affair. Alex spoke in a gentle yet firm tone. Laura's eyes widened as she flipped through the pictures. No, she whispered. This can't be real. Ethan would never. I am sorry, Laura. I did not want to believe it either, but the truth is that my wife, Taylor, and your husband have been seeing each other for several months. Laura looked up with tears in her eyes. How did you find out? Alex sighed. I hired a private investigator. I had my suspicions, but I needed proof, and you've got it. Laura spoke, her voice. Hello. Why are you showing this to me? Why not confront them? Alex leaned forwards. I believe we can help each other. They have betrayed both of us. Laura, do you believe they should face consequences for their actions? Laura, his expression hardened. What did you have in mind? I want to expose them. Alex stated, not just us, but everyone. Show the world who they truly are. Laura hesitated. I do not know, Alex. That seems extreme. Is it? Alex countered. They've been lying and sneaking around behind our backs. They have made us look foolish. Don't you think they should know how that feels? Laura stood up, pacing the room. But how about the children? What about your kids? My stepchildren. Isn't this going to hurt them as well? Alex's expression softened. I've thought about it, but in the long run I believe they will be better off knowing the truth, and we can protect them as much as possible from the consequences. Laura stopped pacing and turned to face Alex. What exactly do you propose? We use social media and local gossip. We spread the news about their affair. Make sure everyone understands what they have done. And then what? Laura asked. Alex's eyes gleamed with determination. Then we watched as their perfect little world crashed down around them. Laura was silent for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. Okay, I'm in. But we do it my way, with no unnecessary cruelty. We stick with the facts. Alex stood and extended his hand. Deal, we will make them regret betraying us. As they shook hands, they shared a silent understanding. They were no longer victims. They were plotting their own vengeance. So where should we start? Laura asked. Her voice had a new resolve to it. Alex took out his phone. We begin by placing a few calls. I think it's time we talked with some mutual friends. As they started to plan, the air crackled with a combination of pain and determination. The revenge web was being spun, and Taylor and Ethan become hopelessly entangled. The next morning, Alex's phone was constantly buzzing with notifications. He picked it up, a grim smile on his lips, and scrolled through the flood of messages and comments. He muttered to himself, "It looks right." Then his phone rang. It was Sarah. Alex. Sarah's voice was shaky. What's happening? There are so many posts about Taylor and Ethan. Alex took a deep breath. It is true. Sarah, all of it. Taylor has been having an affair with Ethan for several months. There was a prolonged pause. Oh my God, Sarah whispered. I can't believe this. I knew something wasn't right. But this, I'm sorry. You had to learn this way, Alex said, but I felt you deserved to know the truth. No, I am glad you told me. Sarah spoke, her voice hardening. I cannot believe Taylor would do this to you, to the children, to me. I thought we were friends. Alex seized the opportunity. Sarah, I hate to ask, but I could use your assistance. The divorce proceedings will begin soon and no further information will be provided. Sarah cut in. I will testify whatever you need. Taylor does not get to play the victim in this situation. Alex hung up and dialed Laura's number. How are things going on your end? He inquired about. When she picked up, Laura's voice was tight. The situation is chaotic. Ethan's phone has been ringing continuously. He keeps denying everything, but the evidence is pretty clear. Good. Alex said, let them squirm. Have you heard from any of his colleagues? Laura replied, a few. The majority of them are shocked. Some people are angry. I believe Ethan's professional reputation is suffering greatly. Right then Alex's doorbell rang. I have to go. He told Laura, keep me posted. He opened the door and saw Taylor standing there. Her face was a mask of fury. How dare you? She hissed and pushed past him into the house. How could you do this to me? Alex closed the door calmly. Do what, Taylor? Tell the truth. Taylor whirled at him. You have ruined everything. My career and reputation. Do you have any idea what you did? I think I do. Alex replied, his voice cold. I had exposed you for who you truly are, a liar and a cheater. This isn't only about us. Taylor shouted. How about the kids? Have you thought about how this will affect them? Alex's eyes flashed. Don't bring the kids into this. When you decided to sneak around with Ethan, you lost your right to use the concerned mother card. Taylor's shoulders set. Alex, what do you want from me? I want a divorce. Alex replied firmly. And I want full custody of the children. Taylor's head snapped upward. No way. You cannot take my children from me. Alex growled. Watch me. I've already spoken with a lawyer. With the evidence I have and character witnesses like Sarah, you do not stand a chance. Taylor's eyes widened. Sarah, she is testifying against me. Alex nodded. It turns out that people dislike being lied to. Who knew? Taylor sank into the couch, head in her hands. This cannot be happening. Oh, it's happening, Alex announced, and things are only going to get worse. Taylor, I suggest you hire a lawyer, because I am not backing down. Alex felt both satisfied and sad as Taylor left her face pale, undefeated. This was not how he had envisioned his marriage ending, but he was determined to prevail. His phone vibrated again. It was a text from his attorney. Heather Clark witnessed the social media storm. Good work. Let's meet to discuss the next steps. Alex typed a quick response and sat down at his computer. He had a feeling things were about to become even more complicated. A week later, Alex found himself in a dimly lit bar nursing a beer. While waiting, the door swung open and a man in a sharp suit entered, looking around nervously before spying Alex. Mr. Conkerdy, the man inquired, sliding into the booth across from him. Alex nodded. Mr. Scott, thank you for meeting me. William Scott. Ethan, his business partner, appeared uncomfortable. Look, I don't know why I'm here. If this is referring to Ethan and your wife, Alex raised a hand. It's related, but not in the way you might expect. I have some information you might find interesting. William's eyebrows rose. What kind of information? Alex leaned in. He lowered his voice. The kind that could save your company and possibly land Ethan in jail. William's eyes widened. What exactly are you talking about? Ethan and Taylor. Alex spoke slowly. Are you planning to embezzle money from your company? They plan to use it to start a new life together. William's face paled. That is a serious accusation. Have you got proof? Alex nodded. I do, but I need to know before I show you. Will you help me stop them? William remained quiet for a long time, his fingers drumming on the table. Finally he spoke. What do you need me to do? Alex smiled grimly. Play along. Pretend you agree with their plan. Let them think they're getting away with it. And then what? William asked. Then we catch them red-handed, Alex said, with enough evidence to put them away. For a long time, William ran a hand through his hair. This is insane. I could lose everything if this goes wrong. You could lose everything if you do nothing. Alex countered. At least this way, you have a chance to save your reputation and your company. William sighed deeply. Okay, I'm in, but I want to see the proof first. Alex took out a USB drive and slid it across the table. Everything is going on here: emails, bank statements, and recorded conversations. Take a look, and then we will discuss strategy. Alex was filled with both anticipation and dread as William walked away with the USB. The trap was set. Now all they had to do was wait for Ethan and Taylor to pull it off. The following day, Alex met Laura in a quiet coffee shop. How did things go with William? Laura inquired, stirring her latte absently. Alex leaned back in his chair. Better than I had expected. He's on board now. We just have to let Ethan and Taylor hang themselves. Laura nodded, her face troubled. I still can't believe they went so far. Embezzlement. It's as if I never knew Ethan at all. People can surprise you, Alex said grimly, and not always in a positive way. Alex's phone broke. Just then William sent a text. Ethan attended the bait meeting scheduled for Friday to discuss investment opportunities. What are our next steps? Alex conveyed the message to Laura. It appears that things are moving faster than expected. Laura's hands shook slightly as she put down her cup. Are we actually doing this? Preparing them to go to jail? Alex's gaze softened. We are not setting them up, Laura. We are just giving them enough rope to hang themselves. They're the ones who decide to break the law. Laura nodded slowly. You're correct. I never expected to be in this position. None of us did, Alex explained. But we must persevere now, for our own and the children's sakes. As they walked out of the coffee shop, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were nearing the end. The revenge web was tightening, and Taylor and Ethan would soon become hopelessly entangled. Later that evening, Alex got another call from William. They're moving quickly. William stated without explanation, Ethan intends to transfer the funds this weekend. Alex's heart raced. Can you stop him? I have tried, William responded, frustrated in his tone. But he's insistent. Says they need to move quickly before anyone notices. Alex spaced the living room. Is your mind racing? Okay. This is what we do. Let them believe it is happening. But we need to notify the authorities. Can you do it without tipping them off? William hesitated. I believe so. I know a detective from the white-collar crimes unit. I can give him a heads up and make it appear like a routine audit. Perfect, Alex said. And William, thank you. I understand that this is not easy. After hanging up, Alex called Laura to provide an update. It is happening, he stated. When she responded this weekend, Laura's voice was tight. Are you certain we're doing the right thing? Alex sighed. I honestly don't know, but I know what they're planning is incorrect. If we don't stop them, he will. As he hung up the phone, Alex looked at a family photo on his mantle. It showed him, Taylor and the children all smiling cheerfully. It seemed like a lifetime ago. I'm sorry it came to this, he said quietly to the picture. But you left me with no choice. The trap was set. All that was left was to watch it spring shut. Alex's phone rang early on Monday morning. He responded groggily. Hello, Alex. It's William. You should turn on the news right now. Completely awake, Alex fumbled for the remote and turned on TV. His eyes widened as he watched the headlines scroll across the bottom of the screen. Local businesses had been rocked by an embezzlement scandal. A young reporter with determined eyes dominated the screen. Emily Green, reports live from outside Gray Mortgage Services. In a shocking twist of events, the company's founder, Ethan Gray, has been arrested on charges of embezzlement. Alex's phone vibrated with a text from Laura. Do you see this? He quickly typed back, yes. Can you come over? Laura arrived 20 minutes later, looking pale and shaken. "I can't believe it worked," she said, sinking into Alex's couch. Alex nodded his face. Grim William came through. He tipped off Emily Green, a reporter. Laura's eyes widened. How did she get all the information so quickly? Alex admitted, "I may have had something to do with that. I reached out to her last week. I gave her some background on the situation." "Alex, that was risky. What if she'd gone public before we were prepared?" He shakes his head. "I did not give her anything concrete, only enough to pique her interest. She finished the rest on her own." Just then Alex's phone rang again. It was Sarah. "Alex, have you watched the news? He is everywhere. Taylor has also been arrested." Alex's heart raced. "What, when just now?" Sarah responded, "I witnessed it happen. They came to her office and released her in handcuffs. Everything is out of control here." As Alex hung up, he turned to Laura. "They also got Taylor. It's actually happening." Laura's expression was a mixture of emotions. "Do you think we went too far?" Before Alex could respond, a knock on the door. He opened it to see Emily Green standing there, a notepad in hand. "Mr. Conkerdy, this is Emily Green from Channel 5 News. I was hoping to get a statement from you regarding the arrests of Ethan Gray and Taylor Conkerdy." Alex hesitated and then nodded. "Come inside, Miss Green. I think it's time to tell the whole story." As Emily set up her recording equipment, Alex and Laura exchanged glances. There was no turning back. "Mr. Conkerdy," Emily began, "can you describe how you first became aware of the embezzlement scheme?" Alex took a deep breath. "It all began when I discovered that my wife was having an affair with Ethan Gray. As I dug deeper, I discovered not only infidelity, but also a complicated web of lies and financial fraud." Emily leaned forwards. Her eyes gleamed. "How did you collect the evidence that led to today's arrests?" "It wasn't just me," Alex explained, gesturing to Laura. "This is Laura Gray, Ethan's wife. We worked together with Ethan's business partner, William Scott. They will uncover the truth." Laura spoke up, her tone shaky but determined. "We couldn't stand by while they destroyed lives and stole money from innocent people. We needed to act." Emily turned to face Laura. "Mrs. Gray, this must be a trying time for you. How are you dealing with your husband's arrest?" Laura's eyes welled with tears, but her voice remained calm. "It's been shocking, of course, but I'm relieved that the truth has finally been revealed. Ethan made his decisions and now he must face the consequences." As the interview progressed, Alex experienced a strange mix of emotions, including relief that the truth was finally being revealed, sadness for the pain this would cause his children, as well as annoyance at what might happen next. After Emma left, she promised to air the interview. That evening, Alex turned to face Laura. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly. "It feels like that to me. I don't know. It feels liberating in some ways, as if a weight had been lifted." Alex's phone buzzed with the text from his lawyer. "Had I learned the news? We need to talk about the next steps in the custody battle. Can you come in tomorrow?" Alex conveyed the message to Laura. "Looks like this is only the beginning." Laura squeezed his hand. "We will get through this. Alex, take one step at a time." As she left, Alex stood at the window watching the neighborhood come to life. He saw people gathered in small groups, most likely discussing the scandal that had rocked their quiet town. He was aware that in the coming days and weeks he would face criticism, judgment, and difficult questions from his children. But for the first time in months, he felt a spark of hope. The truth had been revealed and he could now focus on rebuilding his life and protecting his family. The family courtroom was tense as Alex sat across the aisle from his lawyer, Heather Clark. Taylor glared at him, her once perfect appearance now disheveled. The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, called the court to order. "We are here today to make custody arrangements for Emily and Max Thompson. Mr. Conkerdy wants full custody, with limited visitation rights for Mrs. Conkerdy. Mrs. Conkerdy is seeking joint custody. Let's start with some opening statements. Heather rose, her voice clear and confident. Your Honor, we intend to demonstrate that Mrs. Kincaid's recent actions, including her affair and involvement in financial crimes, render her an unfit parent. Mr. Kincaid has been a consistent and loving presence in his children's lives, so giving him full custody is in their best interests. Taylor's lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, responded. Despite her mistakes, my client remains a loving mother. Her actions, however regrettable they may be, do not diminish her ability to care for her children. We ask the court to consider joint custody as the best option for Emily and Max. As witnesses were called, Alex found himself reliving the pain of the previous months. Miss Wilson, Sarah took the stand first. Heather began. How long have you known Taylor Conkerdy? Sarah looked at Taylor before responding. Nearly 10 years. We've been called colleagues and friends since she first started at the real estate agency. In your opinion, how has Mrs. Kincaid's behavior changed recently? Sarah took a deep breath. Taylor became distant and secretive. She canceled plans at the last minute, citing work emergencies. But now I realize she was meeting Ethan. Taylor's lawyer stood across. Examine, Miss Wilson. Is it true that real estate can be a demanding profession? Couldn't these emergencies have been legitimate? Sarah hesitated. I suppose it is possible, but I have no further questions. The lawyer cut her off. Next, Laura took the stand. Heather approached her gently. Mrs. Gray, please describe your interactions with Taylor Conkerdy. Laura nodded. At first, I assumed Taylor was simply a client of my husband, but as I uncovered the affair and the embezzlement scheme, I realized she was actively defrauding our company and preparing to leave her family. Taylor's attorney pounced. Is it true, Mrs. Gray, that you have a vested interest in painting Mrs. Conkerdy in a negative light? After all, she was involved with your spouse. Laura's eyes flashed. My interest is in the truth and the protection of innocent people, including Alex's children. As the testimonies continued, Alex was called to the stand. Heather smiled encouragingly. Mr. Conkerdy, how would you describe your relationship with your children? Alex's voice softened. Nobody, including Emily, means everything to me. I've always supported them, from Little League games to science fairs. Even when things got tough for Taylor, I made sure she felt loved and supported. And how have you been coping since the separation? It's been difficult, Alex admitted. However, I have tried to keep their routines as consistent as possible. I've arranged for them to see a counselor to help them process everything that has happened. Taylor's attorney approached, his eyes narrow. Is it true, Mr. Conkerdy, that you've been poisoning your children with details about their mother's affair? Alex clenched his jaw. Absolutely not. I've been honest with him in an age-appropriate way, but I've never spoken negatively about Taylor to them. I respect their love for their mother. As Alex stepped down, he caught Taylor's attention for a moment. He caught a glimpse of the woman he once loved looking lost and scared. But her expression hardened and the moment passed. Finally, the judge ordered a recess to review all of the evidence. While they waited, Heather turned to Alex. You did well up there. I believe we have a strong case. Alex nodded with his stomach in knots. I just want the best for the kids. When the proceedings resumed, the judge cleared her throat. I made my decision after carefully considering all of the evidence presented. While both parents clearly love their children, recent events have revealed Mrs. Katz's instability and poor for judgment. Alex held his breath as the judge proceeded. As a result, I am awarding Mr. Conkerdy full custody. Mrs. Conkerdy will have visitation rights, but they will be monitored until she can demonstrate stability and dependability. Mr. Kincaid, I hope you will continue to foster the children's relationship with their mother, regardless of the current situation. Alex nodded solemnly. Of course, Your Honor. Alex felt both relieved and sad as the court adjourned. He had won, but at what cost? Taylor approached her as he gathered his belongings, her eyes welling up with tears. Are you happy right now? She hissed. You have taken everything from me. Alex shakes his head. This is not about happiness, Taylor. It's about protecting our children. I hope you understand this someday. As Taylor stormed away, Heather placed her hand on Alex's shoulder. It is over. Alex, you did the correct thing. Alex nodded. His voice was thick with emotion. Yeah, you seen the thirst. Now comes the difficult part, helping the kids get through this. As he exited the courthouse, Alex steeled himself for the upcoming conversations. He'd won the legal battle, but the emotional one wasn't over. The courtroom fell silent as Ethan Gray was led in, handcuffed and dressed in an orange jumpsuit. Alex sat in the gallery with Laura, both tense. As they prepared to testify, the prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, stood to deliver her opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen on the jury, over the next few days you will hear testimony about a complex embezzlement scheme orchestrated by the defendant, Ethan Gray. Mr. Gray abused his position of trust by stealing millions from both his clients and his own company. We will show beyond a reasonable doubt that he is guilty of fraud, embezzlement and conspiracy. Ethan's defense attorney, a silver-haired man with a G-rowdy voice, responded. The prosecution's case is based on circumstantial evidence and testimony from sworn spouses. My client is a well-known businessman who was the victim of a vicious plot. We will show that Mr. Gray is not guilty of these charges. As the trial progressed, Alex was called to the stand. The prosecutor approached him. Mr. Conklin, could you tell us how you first learned of Mr. Blackwood's illegal activities? Alex cleared his throat. It began when I discovered my wife's affair with Ethan. As I dug deeper, I discovered discrepancies in financial records and overheard discussions about moving large sums of money. And what did you do with the information? I delivered it to Ethan's business partner, William Scott. We gathered additional evidence and eventually contacted the authorities. The defense attorney stood for cross-examination. Isn't it true, Mr. Conklin, that you had a personal vendetta against our client? Is the purpose of this case to exact revenge for your wife's affair? Alex's jaw tightened. This case is about the truth. Yes, the affair hurt me, but the embezzlement scheme is a separate issue. I couldn't stand by and watch as innocent people were defrauded. Next, William Scott took the stand. The prosecutor asked Mr. Scott, Mr. Blackwood's business partner, what made you suspicious of his activities? William sighed at first. It was just minor issues, discrepancies between the books. Clients have complained about missing funds, but when Alex approached me with his concerns, everything started to make sense. We organized a sting operation to catch Ethan in the act. The defense attorney pounced. Isn't it true, Mr. Scott, that you stood to benefit from Mr. Blackwood's downfall, that you now have control over the company? William's eyes narrowed. I did not want any of this. Ethan was my friend and partner, but I could not be involved in illegal activities. As the trial progressed, financial experts testified about the intricate web of transactions Ethan used to conceal his theft. Bank records and email exchanges were used as evidence. Finally, Laura took the stand. The prosecutor approached her. Gently. Mrs. Gray, this must be difficult for you. Can you tell us when you first became aware of your husband's illegal activity? Laura's voice shook slightly. I had no idea at first. Ethan was always secretive about his work. It wasn't until Alex presented me with evidence of the affair that I began to put things together. I confronted Ethan. He admitted everything. He said it was for our future, but I knew something was wrong. The defense attorney's cross-examination was brutal. Mrs. Gray, isn't it correct that you were aware of and benefited from your husband's financial gains? That you lived a lavish lifestyle made possible by this alleged embezzlement? Laura's eyes flashed. I appreciated the lifestyle that my husband's legitimate business provided. I had no idea he stole. If I had known, I would have reported him myself. As the trial neared its conclusion, closing arguments were delivered. The prosecution painted a damning picture of Ethan's greed and deception, while the defense attempted to cast doubt on the witnesses' motivations. Finally, the jury was instructed to deliberate. Alex and Laura waited anxiously in the hallway. "Do you think they will convict him?" Laura inquired, her tone barely above a whisper. Alex squeezed her hand. "The evidence is strong. We must trust the system." Hours had passed before the jury returned. Alex held his breath while the verdict was read on the charge of embezzlement. "We find Ethan Gray guilty of fraud. We find the defendant guilty of conspiracy." "We found the defendant guilty." A collective gasp echoed through the courtroom. Ethan slumped in his chair. His face, passion, and the judge's voice broke through the murmurs. "Mr. Gray, please rise for the sentencing." Ethan stood, his legs visibly shaking. "Ethan Gray, your actions have caused immeasurable harm to your clients, your business partners, and community. You abused your position of trust for personal gain and demonstrated a callous disregard for others. I hereby sentence you to 15 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole for 10 years. In addition, you are ordered to pay $5 to $1 million in restitution to your victims." Ethan was led away. Alex turned to Laura. "It is over. Really over?" Laura nodded with tears in her eyes. "I know I should be relieved, but I feel empty." Alex placed an arm around her shoulders. "It's okay to be conflicted. He was your husband, but you made the right decision." "Laura, we both did." As they exited the courthouse, journalists swarmed around them. Alex raised his hand to shield Laura from the camera. "No comment," he said, firmly directing her through the crowd. Once they were clear, Laura turned to Alex. "What will happen now?" Alex sighed. "Now we try to take each day as it comes." As they parted ways, Alex felt a weight lifted off his shoulders. The long nightmare had finally ended. Now came the difficult task of rebuilding his life and helping his children heal. 6 months later, Alex stood in front of his recently opened auto repair shop, Cousinus Mechanics. The fresh paint gleamed in the morning sun as he unlocked the doors for another day of work. Sarah had sent him a text message the grand opening day. "So proud of you, little brother. I will bring coffee and donuts later." Alex smiled as he entered the shop. He typed back a quick fix. He heard a familiar voice. "Dad, can I sweep the floor again?" Max called from a small office area. Alex ruffled his son's hair. "Sure, buddy. Just be careful with the tools." "Okay." Emily looked up from her homework, which was spread across the desk. "Dad, could we go to the park later? I completed my science project early." "That's great, sweetheart. We will definitely go if it isn't too crowded here." As Alex began to prepare for the day, the bell over the door chimed. Laura walked in with a stack of flyers. "Morning, Alex. I brought the promotional flyers." "We talked about Alex." Grin wind. "Thank you." "Laura, how is the new business going?" Laura's eyes lit up. "The bakery is doing well. I never expected to enjoy it so much, but it has been healing. I suppose creating something positive." In the aftermath of everything that has happened, they were interrupted when another customer entered. Alex recognized him as a regular morning. "Mr. Johnson, how is the transmission holding up?" As Alex gets to work, he was amazed at how much had changed. The shop was doing well. Due to his reputation for honesty and community support, Laura had discovered her passion for baking and turned her hobby into a successful small business. Sarah arrived later that afternoon with coffee and donuts. Just as she promised, look at you. Mr. Businessman, she teased, placed the boxes on the counter. Alex laughed heartily. Simply trying to make an honest living. Sarah's expression softened. Alex, your mother and father would be very proud of you. You've been through so much. Alex nodded, his throat tightening. I couldn't have done it without you, sister. As they talked, Alex noticed a woman hesitantly entering the store. She had pleasant eyes and a warm smile. Can I help you? Alex asked. The woman nodded. I'm Sophie, the new counselor at Emily and Max's school. I just wanted to stop by and introduce myself. I've heard wonderful things about your shop. Alex experienced an unexpected flutter in his chest. Oh, thank you. It's nice to meet you, Sophie. How are the kids doing at school? Sophie's smile widened. They are wonderful, resilient and kind. You should feel proud. As they spoke, Alex found himself enjoying Sophie's company. She was intelligent, compassionate, genuinely concerned for his children's well-being. Sarah raised an eyebrow at Alex after Sophie had left. She seemed pleasant. Alex felt his cheeks warm. Yes, she does. As the day wound down, Alex closed the shop and went home with the kids. While he prepared dinner, he considered how far they'd come. Emily set the table and talked about her science project. Max proudly displayed the sweeping he'd done at the shop. Dad, Emily spoke abruptly, her voice serious. Are you happy right now? Alex paused to consider the question. You know what, sweetheart, I believe I am. It's been a difficult journey, but we're doing fine, aren't we? Both children nodded enthusiastically. What about Mom? Max asked quietly. Alex sighed. Your mother is working on getting better. Remember, we'll see her this weekend for your supervised visit. It will take time, but we are all healing. They ate dinner together, laughing and sharing stories about their day. Alex felt a sense of calm wash over him. Life was not perfect, but it was good. They took each day. As it came later that night, Alex put the kids to bed. His phone vibrated with a text from Sophie. It was great to meet you today. Would you like to have a coffee sometime? Alex smiled and typed back his response. I'd like that. How about Saturday, after the kids' visit with their mother? Alex felt a glimmer of hope for the future as he sat down the phone. He had his children, his sister and close friends such as Laura, and perhaps a chance at new love with Sophie tomorrow would present new challenges. Alex was content for the time being. This happened when I was in the first or second year of junior high school. I think I was about 13 years old. I grew up in the countryside. He braved the storm, protected his children, and emerged stronger on the other side as he fell asleep. He felt truly at peace for the first time in a long time. Here is the next story. Halloween is a favorite time of year for both my wife and me. We enjoy decorating the house and making it scary for all of the neighborhood's young children. Our neighbors have all decorated their houses, giving our entire block the appearance of a haunted neighborhood. Last year, Halloween fell on a Sunday, so the parties took place the night before. On Friday or Saturday, our neighbors, Daniel and Julie, throw an adult Halloween party almost every year. They are usually pretty good with around 24 people. This year they held it on Saturday night. I dressed up as a pirate, which seemed appropriate given my personality. My wife, Mary, dressed up like a lovey, applying greenish makeup to all of her exposed skin, using very dark shadow and liner on her eyes and wearing bright red lipstick. You must understand that Mary is in her mid-40s. Despite appearing and acting younger, she has gained a few pounds over the last 2 years, but she still looks good for her age. She's about 5'4" tall and weighs around 150 pounds. The party started around 7, and because we were fashionably late, we arrived around 7:30, giving some of our other friends time to get there. After all, we had spent a couple of hours earlier that day assisting Daniel and Julian getting the house ready. The party was held in their basement, which featured eerie black light and strobe effects throughout. Mary's green makeup appeared under the black lights, fitting her an even creepier appearance. We all introduced ourselves as we entered, but because most of us had already met at previous parties, there were few genuine introductions. Witches were extremely popular. Last year, Mary had 4 other witches to deal with.
There were a few vampires, 1 vampire.
2 William Enstein. The Flintstones and variety of other ghouls. Mary's outfit. Drew. Numerous compliments and comments, particularly from one of the vampires, Jim. Daniel's work friend was dressed as a vampire. Jim is a very attractive man, tall and muscular. Oh, I forgot to mention that Jim is black and used to work for the same company as Mary. I had nothing to worry about from the moment we walked into the room. He was admiring Mary's legs. I was speaking with another of Daniel's friends while Mary was at the bar getting another drink. When I saw Jim make his way over to her, I knew I didn't have to worry. Mary is rather biased when it comes to interracial issues, so I didn't pay much attention and continued my conversation, despite the fact that she had already had several drinks and has a habit of becoming, shall we say, friendly when she drinks. I wasn't worried about her talking to the other guys. After all, I was standing there. Mary and I have had the typical conversations about fooling around it. Like so many other husbands, I have fantasized about watching her with another guy. I used to think Mary had a deep-seated fantasy about being dumped by a black man. Perhaps it was wishful thinking. She appeared interested, but when I asked if she would ever do it, she always replied that she couldn't duck a black guy. I bought it as a joke for her 40th birthday. Even though I knew I didn't have anything to be concerned about, I couldn't help but glance over every few seconds to make sure I wasn't in the middle of my 5th conversation with different people. When I noticed Mary and Jim were still talking while I looked over, I noticed she seemed bored. Her head was slightly tilted back and her eyes appeared to be closed. When she noticed me looking her way, she straightened up. I didn't notice any strange movements that suggested they were up to something, but she did appear guilty about something. She smiled at me and raised her eyebrows as if to say what. I was aware that something was wrong, but I pretended not to be concerned. Update. I went on with my conversations while keeping a close eye on her. A short time later, I could see her fading back into her state. I could see Jim doing something, but I didn't know what. The area around the bar was very dark and both Mary and him were dressed in black. I couldn't see what was happening. As soon as the immediate conversation was over, I stepped away to see if I could tell what was going on. I sneaked along the wall because it was more difficult for them to see me. They moved closer to see what was going on. Very casual. Jim was her. Even when she tried her hard AR, Mary was always very obvious when she was being aroused, at least to me. I stood a few feet away waiting for Mary to open her eyes and look where I was. Jim was too busy trying to blend and notice how close I was. Then Mary opened her eyes, saw me and transformed into Bambi, caught in the headlights of the Mack truck. I simply smiled as she pushed Jim's hand away from her. I approached them, still grinning ear to ear. Oh, hello. Honey, this is Jim. He works with Daniel. Mary paused when I extended my right hand to shake his. Jim, this is my husband. We just talked about you. I'm sure you were. I looked at Jim. Nice to meet you, Jim. Mary interjected. Jim used to work in my office. That happened years ago. Nice to meet you. Your wife is quite a witch, he said, laughing. She has many nice things to say about you. Really, everyone's looking. I replied to him with a smile honorable. Could you please hand me another beer? Mary reached behind the far end of the bar where the refrigerator was and grabbed another beer for me. Thanks, you're in good hands. I will be floating around. I leaned over the bar to kiss her. Be good kids. I watched them close for a while. It was clear they were keeping their distance. Sorry for spoiling their fun. No, I actually was. I was beginning to wonder how far this could go. Mary was drinking quite a bit. I watched her consume quite a few drinks. Almost every year she creates a new witch's brew. I watched Jim begin to move again. Mary was standing next to him, so I could see what he was doing again. I was also watching everyone else. I just wanted to make sure no one else saw how much of a slut my wife was. I don't think anyone except me was paying attention to them. Mary had slid around the corner behind the bar. Jim was following closely behind her every few minutes. Someone came up to the bar and asked for a drink. Jim and Mary were quite skilled bartenders. Mary distributed the beer from the fridge while Jim handled any mixed drink requests. I suddenly realized Mary had vanished. Or did she? Jim was standing back from the bar and slightly leaning against the back wall behind it. Then it became clear that Mary must have been kneeling in front of him. I had to see. I knew there was a panel that separated the bar from the back laundry room. I worked my way through the crowd, assuming I needed to use the restroom, which was in the same general direction as where I needed to go on the way. I thought to myself, I must be jumping to conclusions here. I cannot imagine Mary doing this. Or could she? I've suspected her of giving occasional jobs to guys we know, but never so openly. All someone needed to do was look over the bar and do it to a black guy on top of it. Once inside the laundry room, I squeezed behind the washer and dryer and into the corner where the panel was located. I slid it open just far enough to see behind the bar. To my amazement, Mary was on her knees. Mary would never admit to wanting to be in love with a black man. By the time I got to my little observation post, Mary had already given him one asterisk. It's a hell of a job with no indication. Jim continued to hand out drinks as people requested them. I watched as my white wife took his. The black lights created an unusual effect. I was completely pissed off. "What are you doing back there?" Julie whispered. At first I wasn't sure what to say. "Oh, spying on your wife with Jim." "Oh yes. Okay. Sorta. Is Mary off Jim?" Yeah. How do you know?" "I simply asked that she beat me to him." I figured it was the next best thing. She smiled wickedly at me. "I was watching you out there and realized something was up. I could tell you were preoccupied by something. To be honest, I only figured it out while waiting for Mary to leave, so I could go there." Wow, I was shocked. I never expected Julie to say something like that. I considered it for a second. Julie wasn't exactly a slut, at the very least. I had never known her to be. We lived near them for 15 years and she'd never suggested she'd play around. I watched Mary slowly stand back up behind the bar. A few minutes later I watched her squeeze past Jim. She was heading back to the restroom. Jim waited a few seconds before following from my position. I lost sight of them, but hoped they were coming back towards me. Once I was in the back room, I noticed Marion enter the bathroom. Jim entered the back room and moved past the bathroom toward the laundry room. I hid in the shadows, still in my small hiding place behind the washing machine. In a few minutes I heard the bathroom door unlock and then open. "Do you hear?" Jim said what Mary asked, turning towards him. "Come here," he said. "I thought we could continue what we started there." "I'm not sure about that," Mary said with concern. "How about my husband?" "I am Mary. You understand?" "Yes, but your husband is out there, and we are safely back here." Slide the door closed. A sliding door separates the bathroom area from the rest of the room. There is also a laundry room. At first I thought Mary wouldn't do it, but then she stepped through the doorway and slid it shut. That individual, I thought to myself, she's going to do him. She's actually going to avoid him. Even though I wouldn't have been surprised if she had ever snuck around on me. I never had any real indication that she did. There are no rumors, suspicious trips, or unexplained and verified incidents at work, none of the things that make a spouse suspicious of their partner. I thought, final update, that slot. as I saw my wife transform into a slot right in front of me. I was still anticipating my rage, taking over my lust and ending this interlude after a few minutes. Jim said, Look, take your time and clean up. I'll go back to the party and make sure your husband doesn't become suspicious. A good idea. Act as if you don't know where I am. I'll be back out in a few minutes." Jim exited the back room and Mary went into the bathroom. I took the opportunity to exit the back room. Jim never saw me leave directly behind him. I made my way back to the bar and poured myself some vodka just before Jim got there. He had no idea I hadn't gone anywhere else. "Where are you hiding my wife?" I asked. As he approached, "I do not know. I left her here a little while back. Perhaps she went to the restroom." "Yes, maybe exactly like a woman." A few minutes later, Mary emerged from the back and walked through the crowd to the bar. "Where have you been?" she asked me. "I've been searching everywhere." "Oh, I guess I didn't recognize you among all the other witches here. Are you having a good time learning new tips and tricks?" "Oh yes, this is one of their best parties." "How about you? Are you having a good time?" "Oh yes, it's great." I never told Mary that I knew. To the best of my knowledge, she has not seen Jim since that night. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.